I would like to see the masks, and we are, according to this plan, going with the pool testing. And those are the only comments I have.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Heather Adams.
I also agree with Chris. I think that masks should be in school because of all the reasons that she said. Not only was it the CDC, but it was the American something of pediatrics that also came down and also recommended that as well. If you look around at all our districts around us, Bonnie Eagle, Wyndham, Lake Region, they're all doing masks. I just want to know, what do we think that separates from them? How do we not think it's going to... something as simple as wearing a mask could save one of our kids potentially. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I think that it should be, at least until we can get past this Delta stuff and see kind of what's going on, and then play it by ear. Thank you.
Chris Carrier.
Thank you. I spent 13 years as a teacher, and I have 2 kids in our school, and I have to reiterate what Chris is saying. I was really torn. We all hate this. I don't know any parent that really loves wearing a mask, but kids are by far really resilient when it comes to this. I feel like they caught on really fast, and it posed the question, are you willing to wear your mask if it'll help you stay healthy? I think most of them, it's a conversation I've had with my kids. And I formed this opinion after talking to my pediatrician and saying, hey, like, what's the smart thing to do? And she quoted the same research from the American Academy of Pediatrics saying, this is how we can keep kids safe. Kind of to top that off, we have a community with a lot of older people, and our kids have grandparents, and there are people who could be immune compromised. And so it's not just the kids, it's the teachers, it's the custodians, it's the bus drivers, it's everyone. So if something as simple as putting up with these pain in the butt pieces of cloth can help keep kids and parents and families safe, it seems the smart way to go for now, even though we hate it.
Charles Rashad.
How are we doing? My name is Charles Richette. I currently have 2 children attending Sebago Elementary. I'm here tonight to let the school committee know I feel strongly that the choice to mask or not mask should solely be left to the parents unless mandated by the state. Since we all don't know your decision yet, and I assume everybody on the board walking here tonight with an open mind, I'm going to approach it like this. I have 5 questions here that I would like answered. Should your vote tonight be in favor of mandatory masking? I'll read these off to everybody here, and I have a copy for you. What are the long-term health effects of my children breathing into a damp, bacteria-filled mask all day? Number 2, what impact is wearing a mask all day having on my children's developing immune system? Number 3, what impression is it making on them socially? Not being able to see facial expressions or words being pronounced. What if any, science is behind your decision, or is it based completely on personal feelings? And number 5, is it your job to represent the CDC or the people of Sebago? I'll pass these out right here. Take them when you'll answer them, but I'd like to have them back at some point in time. At some point here, we need to draw a line in the sand. We need to try to move forward. After this variant passes, there will be another and another. Vaccinations that don't work for the previous and so on. Is the plan to mask and vaccinate for the entire time of it, forever? When's it going to end? These risks that accompany masking, frankly, do not make sense for a virus that virtually poses less threat than the flu or common cold to a healthy child. That's my opinion. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your responses. Thank you.
So your wife, no, mother, Karen.
Karen Richette, and I have two granddaughters that are attending Sebago Elementary. And I've just got some information here that I gathered about the benefits of masks in preventing serious illness or death from COVID-19 among children are infinitesimally small. At the same time, they're disruptive to learning and communicating in classrooms. They may be partially effective in shielding adults from COVID, but since when is it ethical to burden our children for the benefit of the adults? COVID-19 is less of a threat to children than accidents or the common flu. The survival rate among American children with confirmed cases is approximately 99.99%. Remarkably, recent studies find an even higher survival rate. Masking is a psychological stressor for children and disrupts learning. Covering the lower half of the face of both teacher and pupil reduces the ability to communicate. In particular, children lose the experience of mimicking expressions, an essential tool of nonverbal communication. Positive emotions such as laughing and smiling become less recognizable. Negative emotions get amplified. Bonding between teachers and students take a hit. Overall, it is likely that masking facilitates the chances that a child will experience anxiety and depression, which are already at the pandemic levels themselves. So why are adults insisting on masking school children? The argument that it treats all children the same is misdirected. Simply put, it is about self-preservation. Children may not be particularly vulnerable, but they can spread the virus to others, including teachers, school staff, and family members, some of whom may be vulnerable. Today, adults have no reason to put their safety ahead of the well-being of school kids. Vaccinations are highly effective at keeping adults out of the hospital and even better at preventing death. A healthy, fully vaccinated teacher is close to impervious to threats posed by COVID-19 spread in the classroom. By now, every teacher in America has been offered the vaccine. Many were in the first priority group, even above those of vulnerable people. If we want to enhance safety for adults further, we can do so by other measures, such as improved ventilation, case in point tonight, which is less intrusive than masking. Why not put an air oasis in every classroom? These air sanitizer units kill viruses in the air and on surfaces. Ethically, the onus is on the proponents to show that the benefits of masking kids outweigh the cost. They are proposing a fundamental risky shift in classroom interactions and should prove with certainty that there are no other options for safely reopening this school. I agree that parents should be making the decisions to what is right for their children. And if you just went over, the CDC recommends, not mandates, wearing a mask. If you choose to mandate mask wearing for our grandchildren, go on the record, state the facts, not feelings, to support your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not,
That's what I mean.
oh,
The
the whole
grandfather.
family.
My name is Charles Rashad. I have two granddaughters in Sebago Elementary. And I will tell everyone up on this board here that I love them more and am more concerned about their health and safety than any one of you people ever could be, ever. I went to the Sebago website to learn more about, the plan. And when I scrolled through, I ended up going to the Sebago website. I scrolled down through, looked at the plan. It said go here for more further information. I scrolled down through the draft. Came down to where it asks for more information on this site. It says go to this site from the school. And guess what I found? I came down here to look for quick links. And it says COVID-19 cases in Maine, pre-K to 12. I opened that page. Look what I got. Bigfoot, Elvis Presley, and the Loch Ness Monster. Is this the information that you guys are using here to make a thing for our school? Joe, you said it was going to get taken off. It's not. It's still there. I'm just saying that, you know, come on, you can't make this stuff up. So when I couldn't find the information there, what I did is I went to the CDC website, and I went to their page. I went to the page that they had for youth and COVID. When I went to that page, there was an interesting fact there. It was updated as to of August 10th. And then as of August 10th, on an age group less than 25 years of age, the number of persons hospitalized in the state of Maine was how many? 50. Ever since COVID began, this is a CDC website, ever since they began, the number of people 25 years and younger who have had to go to the hospital, people might have had COVID, they might have had the flu, they might have had a runny nose, I don't know. Not only was that the number of cases of people that had had COVID, gone to the hospital, that included people that were confirmed cases or quote unquote, as you see in all of their data, probable cases. So those are people that might have had those runny nose, fever, whatever, that are counted in those COVID numbers. So for me, when I looked at that thing, as of August 10th, the school nurse said 18%. On their page, they listed 10%, which meant that from the age of 4, and I'm talking the CDC website today, August 10th. It said 10% of those.
Today, August 19th.
10% of those children, which means there were 5 children hospitalized in the entire state of Maine with COVID since this began. Now, after August 10th, I'm assuming we had the Delta variant in Maine. So what comes to my mind is the story of Chicken Little. And Chicken Little got hit by an acorn, it rolled into a hole, she looked up and she said, oh my God, the sky is falling. So she gathered all these people and went to the king. And when she got to the king, she said, the sky is falling. And you know what the king said? Show me the piece of sky that fell on your head. And we all know there was no piece of sky that fell on her head. It was an acorn. I look at this situation here as some people who are following Chicken Little. This is Sebago, Maine. It's not Portland. It's not Lewiston, Auburn. It's not Westbrook, Gorham, or Van Gorn. It's not Massachusetts. It's not Alabama. It's not Georgia. It is Sebago, Maine. And for the people of this board to take and look at the threats from COVID, when the facts right from the CDC say that really there is no threat, that really kind of makes me wonder what is going on. The credibility of the board, in my mind, is stained. She mentioned about the teachers wearing a mask. As far as I know, when I went through the plan, the teachers, when they're with the kids, have to wear a mask. When they're in a group in the back room having a cup of coffee, they don't have to wear a mask. Why? If you're so concerned about the threat of the teachers getting or spreading it, mandate that the teachers wear a mask all the time. Mandate that the teachers in Sebago Elementary School have to show a vaccination card. If you really care about our kids, that's what you'll do. But when my son or my granddaughter wants to come to this class, and I feel there's no threat to them as what most of what I see for statistics say, and they don't have to wear a mask, I don't know really why the school board feels any differently. Because I love my grandchildren. I want to see them healthy. And I believe that the risks in Sebago, Maine are not there that warrant them wearing a mask all day long. Other children in the class, they can put on 5 masks if they want. I don't really care. But if they want to be protected, if they want to wear a mask, if this woman's child wants to wear a mask all day long, that's up to her. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a toxic sponge stuck on their face all day long. And I don't think it's right.
Thank you. Joe Williams. And if we could try to keep it to 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, Joe Williams, like many in the crowd, I have 2 children that both attend the school. And in listening to what everybody says, obviously, I have a feeling that it's a parent's choice whether to wear a mask. You've said, and it's been written and said over and over again, it is a recommendation. So I don't know as though how the school board even has the ability to mandate it if it's a recommendation. A recommendation is put out for those to take the information they have and make a decision whether they want to move forward. It's a recommendation to live a healthy lifestyle. A lot of people don't do that. There's all kinds of recommendations out there. But as a parent, we bring our children up and we raise them in a certain way. You may agree with what I do with my children, you may not. But as long as I'm doing what I feel is right for my children and my heart is true, I want to teach them and grow them in a way that understand my feelings towards what we have. Being mandated to wear a mask, the numbers are shown. The CDC numbers show there isn't really any effect on children whatsoever. And I hear the story of what if they go home and they affect their grandparent or their parent. Their grandparent and parent, if they have a problem or they have an issue, they have the right to be vaccinated if they want to. So we take a core of children who are not vaccinated but don't pose really any risk from what we can see greater than anything that's been around for a long time. And then we mandate they wear masks. I agree with everything that was said to have the mask be an option. And I do agree, if your family feels that your child should wear a mask, you should absolutely have them do that. But if I feel that my child shouldn't wear a mask, I shouldn't be forced to make them do that. Now, things change and something is mandated, then I understand. There are legal reasons that cause a school that may have to take a step to do that. But at this time, they're not. And again, we have 118, 19 students in the school. It's a very small amount compared to what we're talking to. I was sitting on a board with some of you that are here when we initially met on this on the 5th of August. There was 8 people in that room. I have the notes from it. 6 of those people were for the idea of having optional and a choice of the parents, and 2 people were for mandating it. I had heard rumors since then that it was a split decision put out there. Well, 6-2 doesn't sound like a split decision to me. So I don't know really what's changed from the 5th to today to make this be such a discussion point that it feels like, and I'm looking across the board here of everybody wearing masks, it seems like that tide has changed, and now we're standing looking down the barrel of a whole nother year of masks with our children, which many of us are against. In the last board meeting last year, somebody here said it, and I don't recall, but they mentioned we shouldn't make our decisions on the most fearful person in the crowd and their information. It should be a collective of the parents and what they want. I don't know if the survey ever came back. There was one that was supposed to be put out. I don't know the results of that. If they were posted, I haven't had a chance to look at them. But it would be interesting to hear, and maybe the crowd would want to hear what that was. My assumption is the school board works for the people of the town and is their voice. And so they should probably listen very heavily to those that are speaking on behalf of the children and who have children at school. Really all I have. Thank you.
Claudia.
My only concern coming in the door was that volunteers be masked or at least vaccinated, and I wanted to know if the kids are going to be allowed to come to the library across the street, because last year we didn't have them at all and we missed them. But it's a small library, so we would require
Can
masks.
she use the microphone? No, it won't, it's for.
I'm just saying, I hope that we're wondering if the kids are going to be allowed to come to the library. We're wondering if the kids are going to be allowed to come to the library across the street this year, because we kind of missed having them coming. But it is a small building, and our building does require masking. And I wasn't going to say anything about the masking, but I do believe in it. As of today, from what I heard on TV this morning about the CDC, there were 180,000 new pediatric COVID cases hospitalized. It's not done. It's more virulent. It's more transmissible. And we did the right thing last year, kept our kids safe. I'd like to do it again.
Thank you. Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen Plumley. I'm the Sebago Health Officer. I've been the health officer here for several years. I'm also a registered nurse, and I worked in a hospital for 30-plus years. I was also the infectious disease nurse for several years in a hospital. I can tell you how many weeks of those years I had to wear a mask. In the OR, why do we wear a mask in the operating room when we have people cut open? Is it because we think that we just want to wear a mask, or is it because it's preventing bacteria and viruses from getting into an open wound? I can tell you that The confusion, again, Chris explained this, but people keep talking about it. The state would have a mandate if they declared a state of emergency. But because the state of emergency was over, the state can only make a recommendation. Right now, the state, CDC, the Board of Pediatrics have made the recommendation that anybody inside of a building, vaccinated or unvaccinated, should be wearing a mask. Nobody's talked about that, but just in the last 2 weeks, we've had staff in this building that have tested positive for COVID. We have several people in the community that have gotten COVID from those staff people who have COVID. If you think that your child cannot get COVID, you're absolutely have your head in the sand. I'm sorry.
I don't think anybody's saying that.
Pardon me?
I don't think anybody's saying that at all. Nobody's saying
Wait,
our children can't get COVID.
Excuse me, it's Helen's turn. We're not discussing
So
between yourselves.
when you're saying you want to make the decision for yourself, you're not making the decision for yourself. If you're sending your child to school without a mask, you're making that decision for somebody else's child as well. And that's why we have requirements for vaccinations for smallpox, measles, chickenpox, you name it. CDC's been doing this for a long, long time. And I think that if you want to send your child here without a mask, you're putting the health of other people at risk. It's not just your decision. I strongly recommend that the board mandate masks for the school children and the staff in this building.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask a question of Helen?
You can after the meeting. So I'm going to address a couple of things that were brought up. The board can only do business.
I just had a couple questions.
Okay, hold on just a second then. The board can only do business at an advertised public meeting. It's valuable to have public comment. It's all that it needs to happen. It's part of the process. But we have our work that we have to do. We have not met as a board and discussed this reopening plan. So, Joe, I'm not sure where any of that confusion came from, but we haven't met to discuss any of this. We'll be discussing it shortly here, and you guys can listen to our discussion and the work that we're doing. And the survey, that turned out to be a total disaster because we had two people from Indiana, I hear, who got on there and put their 2 cents worth in. So the data is tainted, so we cannot use that survey, which is very unfortunate. Okay.
I just have a couple questions in regards to.
Can you just come up here, please?
I just want to better understand a couple of things that I'm not really quite understanding. So lunchtime, how's that going to look for kids? They're going to be sitting together at a table unmasked?
Okay, so we haven't had a chance, I guess.
Okay,
to
I'm just
discuss
pointing
our
out,
plan.
and do we know how far desks are apart? I'm just curious as to all of,
So,
in classrooms, how far the desks are.
okay, so we'll be going over.
We will, okay.
all of
I'll
that
say my questions
part
for
of-
after
as
this.
part of the plan.
Excuse me. Another person would like to talk.
Yes, Maggie.
Yes, I just want to point something out real quick, which you mentioned just about the vaccines, about chicken pox, mumps, measles, stuff like that. You can't compare that to COVID. It's not the same thing. When you look at the science behind it, when they make a vaccine for certain viruses, such as chicken pox, such as mumps, such as measles, it is a singular organism that they can target. And the reason why the vaccine works is because they know what they're after. COVID, unfortunately, is very much like the flu. There's so many strains of it, you don't know what you're aiming for. You can try, but it doesn't mean it's going to work. So I just wanted to
find it very concerning with masks, so I'm against mandating. And I also want to say that my daughter got sick 3 years ago just from getting the flu. And she had a post-viral brain infection. So I was very terrified when she got COVID. She came out fine. We all got COVID. We were fine. But I feel as a developmental standpoint for our children, we should make it an option.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment.
No, we have to cut it off so that we can get our work done. Okay? Everybody's had an opportunity, those who wanted to speak. Okay. So. Okay, so does everybody have a copy of the reopening plan?
There's one in your packet. Looks like that. There you are.
So we need to have a motion to accept the reopening plan in order to have discussion and make any changes to it. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to discuss the reopening plan.
Accept it apparently, and then we can have discussion. I don't like that.
That's okay. So I make a motion to accept the reopening plan so that we can discuss.
Yes. And we have a second. Discussion. Okay. Okay. So I think we should go through point by point. School will open for in-person learning for all students on September 1st. Any discussion on that? We've already accepted the calendar, so. Remote instruction will not be offered as a learning alternative.
Is that something that could be subject to change if we had to?
It's not in our budget.
No, but if we had to, could that be modified?
Anything on it, Wendy, can be modified.
Okay, yeah.
Would you think if we get to a certain percentage?
Yeah, but she said anything could be modified, so if we had to.
Yeah.
That's just, I just wanted to.
Well, I was thinking the same way.
But we can't do remote like we did last year with our remote instruction teacher, because we don't have the funds for that. We're not budgeted for that. So it would be the regular classroom teachers if that happened.
What happens if 75% of the school is in quarantine?
Then I would assume that everybody, I don't know, David, what would happen?
If 75% of the school were out for an extended period of time, we would develop a remote learning plan that was implemented by our staff and available for our students.
So it still would fall back on the classroom. Okay.
Yep. So fingers crossed that doesn't
Oh,
happen.
no, I don't want to see it happen. Good
Yeah.
Lord.
Parents will complete and send their child to school with his or her daily health check ticket, the same ones that we used last year. Any discussion on that?
You know, that worked well, and the parents were very responsible. They really took that to heart and were in contact with the school. I think parents need a pat on the back for that.
Yep.
They worked beautifully.
So now we're down to the controversial one, masks or not. So, Tina, do you want to speak on that? I'm giving everybody the opportunity.
Yep. Looking at the stuff that David sent to us throughout the week, it was from research all over the country. Anyway, all of the research that he sent to us was recommending that the schools require masks. I personally believe that we should require masks to be responsible one to another. I hear parents when they say it should be their choice. But your choice becomes null and void when your choice directly affects me, my health, my well-being, and anybody else's. There's a place in society, I think, where we have to try to learn to be responsible for each other. There was a thing on masks, facts and fiction or myths, and it says that the bacteria does not build up in the mask, or the building up of carbon dioxide and oxygen is irritating to children. And scientifically, that doesn't hold water. I'm going with science because we've had to rely on it with our past decisions. And running the school last year with masks, we had no school transmission. We had 3 cases of COVID, 2 cases in one family. Those children and staff were removed from the building within an hour, and they were in quarantine. So I choose to err on the side of caution and safety for the children, because this COVID with the children is getting progressively worse. I don't want to see any child die, and I think Wendy sent information here. Here's one of a 5-year-old that just died in Florida. God bless Florida, they know anything about COVID. And they're saying that in the Florida hospitals that the pediatrics cases are multiplied. So I vote yes. Masks.
Wendy.
All right.
No, a lot of talk, right?
No, this is, we're doing our business. We have to be able to discuss things.
So I listened to Dr. Shaw today on NPR, and he talked about the whole issue with children getting COVID. And right now, as of today, as many kids are getting sick with COVID as adults in Maine. Last year, not as many kids were getting it, but that was not with the Delta variant. Right now, with the Delta variant, the kids are getting it as much as the adults, and there are kids that are being hospitalized. So, as a mother and a grandmother, I guess I just don't want to take a chance with either my own children, or I wouldn't want to take a chance with my own kids, and I wouldn't want to take a chance with anybody else's kids, and I think the kids did great last year with masks. However, if we don't have to wear masks after a while, then so be it. I mean, nobody wants to wear them. But I just feel like if it's a matter of life or death, or a kid having long-term COVID for years, then wearing a mask is a small price to pay. That's my opinion.
Okay. Joe?
Well, last year we had a successful year in keeping this virus out of the school mostly. And basically it's still out there. And I don't have any experience with, I'll call it viral technology. But I have to go with the people who do. So the CDC, the recommendations from the Maine Health, the recommendations of the American Pediatric Group. I wouldn't want to take the risk with my kids. And, basically somebody gets sick and they don't have the appropriate amount of insurance, then even if the child survives, he could end up with a $60,000, $70,000 bill. So I would want to avoid all of that as much as possible. And the best tool we have at the moment is the masks, and we can only hope that as we proceed, possibly before the end of this year, but probably not, we will have vaccines that we can give to the kids, which will shall we say, greatly reduced the problem.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Justin?
All right, I'm a parent of a student at Sebago Elementary, and I believe it's time. I mean, mask doesn't bother me wearing it, doesn't bother my daughter. You know, yeah, I think you could argue choice, but I mean, it goes out the window when you choose for someone else to have a kid not wearing a mask. So I'll vote for it.
Okay. Would you like to weigh in on this?
I'll listen to the chair.
I would.
Okay. My turn. Sorry. So, I am torn in two completely different directions at the polar opposite end of the arguments. I believe parents should be able to make the decisions concerning their children. It's a fundamental right as an American citizen. But I also have known many people now in my life who have been vaccinated and have gotten this Delta variant. One thing we haven't talked about is the general consensus appears to be for masking. If that is something that it looks like the board is going to end up voting for, then I want to add something into this reopening plan. I want this looked at every 2 weeks until masks can come off, if that's what we're voting on. Yep, every 2 weeks.
How would you go about that?
I'm sure Chris Balchunas would be happy to help us figure that out.
But you only come to the school board once a month.
That doesn't
as
matter.
a workshop. So the policy could not change until it was monthly change when you meet. I don't know what kind of statistics you want, but I don't feel you can change your policy more than once a
That's
month
not a
when you
policy,
go
that's just how we happen to schedule things. We can schedule 2 meetings a month or a workshop and a meeting. That's not a problem.
You
That's
don't
every 2 weeks.
vote at a workshop.
Yeah, we can do one the second week of the month and do a regular meeting the 4th week of the month.
So now, are we making more work than is necessary? I mean, if you're saying that,
Okay.
then you must have something
Hold on,
in mind.
it's my turn right now, Tina. Okay? If we are looking at voting to start the school year with everybody in the school building wearing masks, then I feel very strongly that we need to be responsible and put into this draft. I mean, why should people go a day longer than necessary wearing a mask? Chris, am I right about that?
What is your criteria for not wearing masks?
Because okay,
Is it the CDC?
the variant will peak, and then it will go down, just like COVID did last year.
And now there's the lambda coming. So what's the...
Whatever. Right now, we're dealing with what we're dealing with. So I don't understand why you're not understanding me. How hard is it to just look at this? Do we need to require masks all day long, every day, when the Delta variant has died down? Now, who knows what's coming down the pike? We don't know. But we can...
You want to know the data on the Delta variant? I just want to become clear on what
Wow.
kind of... What data do you want?
Let's keep it to the board right now.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right.
It's a fair thing to say that if the guidelines I really